families lived in our house, were teared and dragged from their flats on the street, and at the same time, the synagogue started to burn.
Anything that could be burned, let's say clothing and books and so forth, was thrown out the windows and burned in a small pyre in front of the house. And you could really spot Jewish houses or apartments by these fires in front of them.
I ran into an SS man that I knew. We had met once at a cafe. I said, "Tell me, what is this nonsense about? What is this all about?" And he said, "Yes, it was ordered. We didn't do that in Leipzig. We drove to Dresden, and the Dresden SS drove to Leipzig, so nobody would recognize us."
And all of a sudden, these Nazis with sticks and with anything they had knocked down the Jewish people that were walking there.
On the terrible 10th of November, the shop, I wanted to go in. I couldn't. Outside, on the sidewalk, lay my friend. On the pavement. There lay my wise friend with his head split open on the ground. They had killed him and, of course, plundered the shop completely.
At this spot, I was arrested on 10th November 1938 at 11 o'clock in the morning. The first man came to me. He looks very Jewish. He said, "Are you Austrian?" I said, "Yes." "Are you Jewish?" I said, "Yes." So he pulled out the plaque. I said, "Gestapo, follow me, you are arrested." So my mother grabbed me and started to yell, "He's a child, he's a child. What do you want from him? Let him go." So she wouldn't let me go. So he kicked her with a big treat he gave her. And there were, at this time, there were steps here. She rolled down all the steps. I wanted to go to her to help her to get up. He wouldn't let me. Nobody was helping her. She wasn't a young lady anymore. She got up and started to yell, "Let him go, let him go." And I had to follow him. I just heard her lay down still, "Let him go, let him go."
We saw a large number of people assembling down there in the courtyard of the Polizeipräsidium. And then we noticed that were the people taken to Sachsenhausen concentration camp. Hundreds.
And this was, of course, happening all across Germany, which became apparent to us. I must have been on the previous night shift because I then went into the office and got reports from our stringers in different German cities. Some of them, all Germans, some of them obviously party members, who phoned in some concern and in obvious shock and almost disbelief to tell us what was going on there. All I saw was this smashing of these Jewish premises. And they reported, however, harassment, brutalization, beating of people in the stores, people dragged out of their homes, people marched through the streets.
People watched the scenes of destruction, and in Vienna they heard this report actually broadcast on Austrian radio.
Wien, 10. November, stehen mit unserem Mikrofon in dem großen Leopoldstädter Judentempel.
Hier muss man es wieder der Partei zuschreiben, dass das Judentum vor dem größten Unglück bewahrt wurde. Die Juden können es sich nur selbst zuschreiben, dass es so weit gekommen ist, und das werden wir alle, die hier um mich herumstehen, bestätigen können. Die Männer der SA, die hier ihren Absperrdienst vollbringen, die können vielleicht auch etwas erzählen, wie das Ganze vor sich gegangen ist.
Ich bin erst kurze Zeit hier, aber wir räumten den Platz jetzt und weil Einsturzgefahr beim Tempel ist, es befindet sich sonst niemand hier in der Gegend.
Ja, es ist jetzt alles weg. Leute stehen nicht mehr auf der Straße und wir werden auch gleich verschwinden. Also ich glaube, der Tempel kann ohne weiteres einstürzen. Wir haben alle nichts dagegen. Was?
It was a very hard day for the young boy. It was the first time I saw destruction in my life. The first time. Yeah.
Von tiefem Grauen gepackt worden.
I was really seized by a deep horror. At that time, the Germans, by order of the government, especially young Germans, the Hitler Youth, allowed themselves to be seduced into torturing people, to set holy places on fire, to brutally destroy businesses, and then that the police and the fire department, who had been partly notified by us, went to the scenes of horror and did not interfere but allowed it to happen.
This was surreal to the average German as well as to almost anyone else. They saw that it could, I mean, they knew perfectly well that this was not a spontaneous expression. It was a concentrated, deliberate act by the government.
This was for good, we know. The end of our normal life, and normal at that time already was bad enough.
This mandatory identity document dispelled any doubts for those Jews still in Germany and Austria who had deluded themselves that this was just a passing phase.
When I am asked why didn't the Jews in Germany or in Berlin emigrate sooner, my answer was the majority of people had no connection with abroad. And emigration means also immigration. That means you had to comply with a number of conditions which the countries abroad established. I tried Holland, I tried Sweden, I tried England, I tried America, I tried Australia, and in the end, none of these attempts proved useful.
The headlines of the international press were strong, but the world's reaction was timid. This frustrated the Germans who opposed Hitler.
When the Kristallnacht happened, to us it has been really something like a God-given opportunity. It may really sound silly to you, because we said, this should be the last straw to all of them. Now something should happen. They should say, at least we break, we cut off diplomatic relations. We will get our ambassadors back. They will now really act strongly. But it didn't.
Franklin Roosevelt's reaction to reporters was unusually tough. But as President of the United States, he did not relax any of the country's strict immigration quotas. And that was reflected elsewhere in the world. Politicians mostly confined themselves to issuing strongly worded statements expressing disapproval and concern.
It raises our every sense of indignation and our every resentment. It makes us fearful for the whole progress of civilization.
In spite of almost universal condemnation, the world did nothing, and Hitler was reassured by that. He was now, in fact, so confident that in an act of supreme cynicism, he decreed that the Jews should pay for the damage done during Kristallnacht. They were to be fined almost $500 million. In the meantime, Ernst von Rath, who was ironically not a staunch Nazi in life, was in death given the full panoply of a state funeral with all the Nazi trappings. And Herschel Grinspan, the 17-year-old who pulled the trigger and unwittingly set the stage for Kristallnacht, eventually he wound up in Moabit prison in Berlin. In 1942, as this document shows, he was transferred to the notorious prison in Magdeburg. What happened after that is unknown. Kristallnacht turned out to be just a preview of what would follow. It would get much worse. With the start of World War II, Hitler's machine of death moved beyond the German borders, devouring everything in its path. By 1945, 6 million Jews, along with 5 million other victims, were slaughtered. And perhaps understandably, this has overshadowed the events of Kristallnacht. But we should remember that Kristallnacht was the first step along the road that would lead, ultimately, to genocide. It began with the obliteration of the centers of Jewish faith, the synagogue. That in turn led to the destruction of the Jewish community and its culture. We now know that on Kristallnacht, over 1,100 synagogues were destroyed, not 191, as the Nazis would have had us believe. And it was not 36 people who died, it was over 300. We know this because of the research of one man who survived Kristallnacht and the Holocaust that followed. Professor Meyer Schwartz has been on a personal odyssey trying to trace his past. When he came back to his hometown of Nuremberg trying to find his old synagogue, he was told he was mistaken. There was no synagogue, never had been. Meyer Schwartz knew better.
This was a synagogue. The upper part was a school where I went as the first and second grade. Here was a community. Here was our life. It's the morning of the Kristallnacht. It was burned, the shell. And now, a garage, renting cars.
Why this mission to discover how many were destroyed?
Because the Jewish communities in Germany, before there was 1,300 communities. That's a very, very big population. So somebody has to remember this Jewish life and to find these synagogues. Darf man eine Minute reingehen?
So not allowed to go in.
Yeah, you can.
Thank you very much.
In each of these synagogues, you find nearby the school for the children. You find nearby a place for the Jewish baths. And you find always the Jewish people are living nearby the synagogue because twice a day they're meeting here to pray in the morning and in the evening. But the Nazis had in mind we can destroy buildings and we destroy the Jewish life. That never happens. You know, you have many places now in Germany they try to rebuild it, but this is one of the nicest ones in this area.
How many people are there still in Ansbach?
Nobody. No Jewish people anymore.
So what will the synagogue be used for?
I don't know. Nobody needed, nobody. We are only now, they have in mind we should remind something what was before.
What do you look for in terms of Jews having lived here before the war?
First of all, I'm looking for old houses near the synagogue, old houses like that. And then the next thing, to look for a mezuzah, like here. You see it here. Here was a Jewish life. Today, if you ask the people living in, they don't remember, they don't know. Many of them really don't know. We are here in Fruchtwangen, and here was a place where the synagogue was standing. And this says, here stands the synagogue, built 1833, burned down in political madness. It's the 9th to 10th of November 38.
There was the Jewish bath.
Oh, yes,
over there, the Jewish bath, the mikveh was here, over here.
No, this is nothing.
No, it's nothing. May I see?
Yes, you may see, of course. Now this is just a piece of wood here.
Ah, here. You see nothing there anymore.
This is where the Jewish bath was supposed to be.
Like that, you have to find where the water was coming down to the mikveh. I would probably assume it was this place. It could be as well on the other side. But this is exactly the place where it could be down to the bath. But it's very hard to find now.
As you go through this period of exploration, what do you feel you're gaining from this?
The main thing is to restore what happens here before. To make a memory of our parents who are living here for many centuries. Part of this small town, it's something in between a village and a town, was built by Jewish people. He mentioned all these buildings here around Jewish people were living. He gave me the names, Family Stern, and Gutmann,